In a packed courtroom humming with anticipation, a hush fell as Pam Bondi entered. Known for her poise and commanding legal presence, today, all eyes weren't on her words, but the small cross necklace glinting on her neck. The judge, a stern figure with a reputation for rigid protocol, eyed Bondi with suspicion. His gaze fixated on her necklace, brows furrowing as if she'd brought chaos into his courtroom. Without a pause, he tapped his gavel and called the court to order. But instead of addressing the case at hand, he turned to Bondi and issued an unexpected rebuke. "Ms. Bondi, religious symbols are not permitted in this courtroom. You are in contempt of court," he barked, stunning the gallery into silence. Even the stenographer stopped momentarily. The judge's statement echoed across the chambers. Confusion and tension rippled through the room. Bondi's team exchanged nervous glances, unsure how to proceed. Bondi, unshaken, slowly rose to her feet. She gently touched the cross around her neck and looked directly at the bench. Her calm defied the judge's thunder. "Your Honor," she began respectfully, "this necklace is not a statement. It's my right, protected under the Constitution. If I may, I can present precedent supporting this." The judge raised an eyebrow, skeptical. "Are you challenging my authority, Ms. Bondi?" His voice now carried a faint tremor, perhaps from uncertainty. "Not your authority," she replied, unwavering, "but I must defend my right to free expression and religious liberty, both of which have been upheld in numerous Supreme Court decisions." The courtroom murmured. Her words didn't sound like defiance, they rang with knowledge, strength, and precision. The judge paused, seemingly caught off guard. But unwilling to back down, he imposed a symbolic fine of $500 on Bondi for alleged contempt. The gasp that followed filled the courtroom with disbelief. Bondi didn't flinch. Instead, she calmly accepted the fine and asked to proceed with her motion. The judge reluctantly agreed, hoping to steer things back on course. Then came the legal battle. Bondi stood with confidence, delivering a compelling argument that would not only stun the courtroom but deeply challenge the judge himself. With every paragraph of her case, Bondi dissected statutes, constitutional rights, and landmark decisions with razor-sharp clarity. Her words were like arrows, striking with precision. The judge, who had appeared so dominant earlier, now leaned forward, listening intently. It was clear, Bondi wasn't just a good lawyer, she was extraordinary. Citing Tinker v. Des Moines and Burwell v. Hobby Lobby, she wove religious freedom and personal expression into her case with such fluency it left even seasoned lawyers in awe. Courtroom spectators watched in stunned silence as Bondi cross-examined witnesses and dismantled the opposition's claims with surgical accuracy. What started as a distraction over a necklace had transformed into a masterclass in legal brilliance. Even the court clerks whispered in admiration. The judge scribbled furiously, visibly rethinking his earlier actions. His stern posture softened with each point Bondi clarified and expanded upon. By the third hour, Bondi had not only defended her client's case, she'd built a constitutional argument so strong, even the judge was nodding along. During a brief recess, reporters dashed outside to file urgent updates. "Pam Bondi silences courtroom with constitutional firestorm," one headline would later read. As the court reconvened, Bondi offered a concluding argument that tied everything together, not only legally but ethically and morally. "This courtroom must not become a space where the very freedoms we protect are muted," she stated. "If we silence belief, we set a dangerous precedent." Silence. The judge's hands trembled slightly as he adjusted his glasses. "Ms. Bondi," he said slowly, "your argument has considerable merit." He admitted that perhaps he had acted hastily. "This court respects religious freedoms, and your necklace will not be an issue moving forward." The spectators erupted in applause, a rare breach of decorum, but one even the judge didn't scold. Bondi's legal genius had spoken too loudly to ignore. He then vacated the contempt charge and nullified the fine. "And I offer my apology," he added. "Your professionalism reminds this court why we must uphold liberty." Bondi nodded humbly. "Thank you, Your Honor. I appreciate the court's willingness to revisit its position." What followed next made headlines across the country. The judge submitted a personal letter to the Bar Association recognizing Bondi's exemplary legal conduct. That letter praised her not only for her courtroom command but for teaching the bench a powerful lesson about rights and decorum. News anchors debated the incident for days, with most siding with Bondi's calm, principled stand against what many saw as an overreach. Legal scholars applauded her response, using it as a case study in ethics classes and constitutional law seminars nationwide. Even critics of Bondi found themselves grudgingly impressed. Her courtroom performance was simply undeniable, a beacon of legal craftsmanship. The cross necklace, once the center of controversy, became a symbol of resilience. Bondi's composure turned what was meant to shame into triumph. Days later, when asked in an interview if she regretted wearing the cross, Bondi simply said, "It reminds me to stand firm in truth, even when it's uncomfortable." Social media exploded with support. Hashtags like #BondiBold and #CrossOffCourage trended for a week as users shared their admiration. Religious liberty groups issued formal letters praising Bondi for defending constitutional values in real time and with grace. Her story became more than courtroom drama, it became a moment of cultural significance, illustrating the power of standing firm. Law students across the country began studying that case not for the lawsuit itself, but for Bondi's strategic handling of the unexpected turn. Even the judge, once critical, invited Bondi to speak at a judicial ethics forum he hosted just 2 months later. There, Bondi shared her experience with humility. "The law doesn't belong to judges or lawyers," she said. "It belongs to the people, and the truth." That quote was printed on law school walls. Her words became a rallying cry for young lawyers facing discrimination or doubt. In the months that followed, Bondi's popularity soared. Invitations poured in from legal institutes, universities, and public rights foundations. She never boasted about the moment. Instead, she used it as a platform to mentor others and advocate for courtroom equity and religious freedom. Her legacy grew stronger, not as a politician, not even as an attorney, but as a principled defender of constitutional values. The cross necklace, now iconic, was later donated to a museum exhibit on American rights and freedoms, alongside Rosa Parks' purse and Ruth Bader Ginsburg's collar. Pam Bondi's case became part of legal textbooks, titled, "The Neckless Argument," showing how dignity and knowledge can defeat bias. Lawyers began invoking her case in similar situations, using it to cite precedent when defending individual expression. Bondi herself continued her legal work, now armed with a deeper public trust and widespread respect from colleagues and citizens alike. Even years later, the moment remained fresh in public memory, a single gavel strike that unleashed a wave of reflection on power and principle. One journalist summed it up best: "A woman walked into court with a necklace and left having redefined legal discourse." For Bondi, it was never about winning applause. "It's about showing up prepared," she said. Prepared for truth. Prepared for justice. The judge, once adversarial, became one of her strongest supporters, admitting later that Bondi had revived his view of the courtroom's moral purpose. Their unlikely mutual respect showed how minds can evolve, even those wearing robes and holding gavels. As her story was shared, from law schools to faith circles, Bondi's name became synonymous with grit, intellect, and restraint. Many young women wrote her letters, calling her an inspiration, a legal compass, and a role model for how to fight with facts, not fury. Bondi answered each one. "Use the law to build, not break," she wrote in return. "Even when they try to silence you, speak louder with your actions." Her courtroom cross was never just jewelry. It was conviction, and that day, it gleamed not in gold, but in truth. The nation watched one woman rise above judgment, not by shouting, but by simply knowing the law better than anyone else in the room. And so, Pam Bondi's necklace may have drawn the fine, but her legal mind paid it off with interest, changing the courtroom forever.